Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, usually joined by Chris Emerson, but today I'm going solo, but do not worry. We're going to be back for a brand new show tomorrow talking about the Wolves going forward. We'll talk about their potential playoff opponents. Let's be honest, it's probably going to be the Nuggets. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. But I just had a little time, so I wanted to go on and talk a little bit about my feelings of the Wolves clinching another playoff spot, their fifth one in a row. And I know that we thought the Wolves were probably going to make the playoffs this year, or at least we were expecting it. The over-under line for FanDuel, which, to be honest, I don't really sports bet at all. So that doesn't really affect me that much. But the one people were betting on was 49.5. It was announced for tonight's game that the Wolves are probably going to pull the plug on a lot of these players. I think really the only one that's questionable is actually Jaden McDaniels, but you'll see a lot of unfamiliar faces in these next couple games here, particularly with Houston winning last night and giving us this playoff spot. So you're going to see some unusual names this season, or for the rest of the season. I'm actually kind of excited for that. But like I said, the over-under 49.5, we're probably not going to get there. But at the end of the day, really, who cares? Because the Wolves have clinched another playoff spot. I found some fun stats here. I went through it. Thanks a lot to ChatGPT. Since 1989, the four major teams. Now, I know the Lynx have won a championship. I know the Loons have come into fruition since then. I know the Frost either won or went to a championship. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not being sexist here. I'm just counting the major four teams and their playoff percentage since the Wolves became a NBA team in 1989. So the team with the best playoff percentage since 1989 of the major four teams is the Minnesota Wild. An impressive 56% of their seasons, they've gone to the playoffs 14 times so far. The team that has the most playoff appearances, of course, the Wild didn't come into fruition until 2000. The Vikings actually have gone 18 times, 37% of the time. The Timberwolves are actually third. This is their 14th time in franchise history that they have gone to the playoffs. Of course, most of them come in clumps all together. The 5 in a row here, the 8 with Kevin Garnett, and then one in the middle, a random one with Jimmy Butler. They've made it 37% of the time, which honestly isn't super terrible. In my head, it sounded worse, but I know they made it a ton of times with Flip, and now they're making it a ton of times with Chris Finch. And unfortunately, and maybe the weirdest one, the Minnesota Twins have the worst playoff percentage since 1989. They made it 11 times, 29% of the time, but obviously there's the championship in there, so that almost counts for like 15 playoff appearances. So, anywho, the Wolves make it to another playoff appearance. This is the second time in franchise history the Wolves have went to the playoffs 5 straight times. Of course, they made it 8 straight times from 96 to 2004. Maybe would have made it farther in the playoffs if it wasn't for that whole Joe Smith thing. And I promise you that is the last time I'm going to mention Joe Smith on this podcast, or hopefully ever. Another fun fact, this is Rudy Gobert between us and Utah. This is his 10th straight playoff appearance. So if you are 9 to 10 years old, your entire life, every single season, Rudy Gobert has made the playoffs. And basically what I want to say here, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of everything. Obviously, we beat Indiana last night. We played the Orlando Magic tonight. A lot of players out. We'll get into playoff strategy. We're probably going to play the Nuggets on the first round of the playoffs, probably going to be on the road. We'll go over all of that later on in a later podcast. But I just want to say, don't take this for granted. Now, I know that we have made 5 straight playoff appearances. We've had some heroics in the playoffs. Of course, the heroics against the Denver Nuggets. We had the Phoenix Suns situation and then fell short against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, even though we lost to the Mavericks, still a really fun series, still stuff that I will remember for a long time. Even though the Luka hero ball or the Luka immaculate three-pointer happened, I am still going to remember that series fondly for a long time. And then, of course, last year with the Lakers and then Steph Curry getting hurt, and then we had the Oklahoma City Thunder kind of ran into a buzzsaw. It's been a fun time for Wolves fans recently, and it's just a testament to Anthony Edwards. Let's be completely honest. We can go into the nuts and bolts of everything that's going on here as a franchise. None of this happens if we don't draft Anthony Edwards first overall. It just does not happen. Like, could you imagine? And by the way, if you got something that if you want to add to the conversation, make sure to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe as well. Could you imagine if we drafted James Wiseman? We would be like, none of these players would be here. Randall wouldn't be here. Towns would have probably left a lot earlier. I mean, gosh, none of these players would be here. We wouldn't have any of the trajectory that we had. We honestly owe it all to Anthony Edwards, and what a career he's had already here in Minnesota. So many moments, and hopefully more to come. Hopefully he can heal up, rest up. I would think that maybe they'll bring Ant back for maybe one game, just to almost as like a dry run. Maybe even I don't think the Pelicans game, but one of these games, just almost as like a simulated practice, just a little shoot around, just for him to get going, because it's going to be tough sledding on the road at probably Denver game 1 to bring back Anthony Edwards cold turkey after not playing. Well, really not playing for 2 weeks. It's really been about a month. I know he played like a game or two inside of there, but bringing him back just against Denver cold turkey, that would be a tough thing to do. But this franchise has been so poverty for most of my life. Now, I started being a Wolves fan in about 2002, so right in the prime of Wolves basketball. I was alive for the 90s playoffs, but I don't remember it at all. I don't really remember the players. I have no recollection of Stephon Marbury. To me, Stephon Marbury is a New York Knick. I got to be completely honest. That is where I remember watching Stephon Marbury, and then a little with the Suns as well. But I didn't consume basketball the way that I do now when I was 10 years old and the Wolves went to the Western Conference Finals. And then when I started consuming basketball, not necessarily with a podcast, but the way that I do now, I mean, we were just garbage, just absolute garbage. That's all I remember, is just bad teams getting dominated by guys like Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, always losing. LeBron had our number. Everyone had our number. Watching guys like Nathan Juwai and Indy Eby and Johnny Flynn and Craig Smith, who, shout out to the Rhino, fantastic player. And even though he is a post-playing god, Al Jefferson, in fact, I saw on a podcast Austin Rivers was doing, he was saying that Al Jefferson can basically do everything that Alfred Sengun can do. I would say Alfred's maybe a better passer. That's neither here nor there, but just even if we had good players like Kevin Love or Ricky Rubio, we just couldn't put the players around him. Remember when we thought that 2012, that one year where I think it was 2012 or 2014, I don't remember which one, maybe it was 2014, where Ricky Rubio got hurt, and we thought that, oh, we were 2 games under 500. That was a pretty good year. Like, things are looking up, obviously, and that was the Rick Adelman era as well. Obviously, things weren't looking up. Things were going to tank, and that's how we ended up eventually getting Karl Anthony Towns and guys like Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins. But all I'm saying is just enjoy being in the playoffs right now. Just enjoy being relevant. Because I mean, we could complain, oh, the Wolves didn't live up to expectations. Man, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. They dropped some bad games here and there. They are on the downswing heading into the playoffs. But remember, anything can happen. And I did a video like this in 2004. No, excuse me, 2024, not 2004. I wasn't live streaming 10 years old on even before YouTube was around. But in 2024, I did a video right before, I think it was the eve of the Wolves Suns series. And remember, everyone going into that was saying, oh, the Suns have our number. They had just beaten us 4 times already in the regular season. And really, maybe one of the games was within 10. Like, it wasn't even close. And there's a Kevin Durant factor. The Suns had recently gone to the finals, and it was just like, we're going to get killed. We have no choice. What happened? Ants flexing at Kevin Durant, and we win in 4. One of the most memorable series of all time in Wolves history. Then we know what happened after that. And then remember the Lakers series. Oh, shoot, it's Luka again. He's going to get us again. Here comes Luka and LeBron, the brand new Nico Harrison gave them a championship. Well, what happened? Wolves showed up. Anthony Edwards showed up. Julius Randle showed up. Rudy Gobert showed up. The whole team showed up. Nah showed up, which I think he's going to have a great run in Atlanta. I'm super excited for him. By the way, the right response to the nah thing is not to live in regret. It's to say good for him and move on. Cheer for him. Honestly, the Atlanta Hawks, if the Wolves get knocked out early, knock on wood that they don't, the Atlanta Hawks is the team that I'm rooting for because I think they're young and fun. I enjoy watching the Atlanta Hawks, and particularly Nah as well. But all I'm saying is anything can happen. You can't count this team out, even though, we're injured right now. Ant's out. Jaden is working his way back. I mean, really, I know there's our 2 big pieces, but really, are we really that injured? I don't get me wrong. I love this week that we have here to just rest up. Like, this is, I guess, week and a half to just rest up. And I love what they're doing tonight against the Orlando Magic to just rest the guys. I don't think anyone's playing, like, except DiVincenzo and Nas. I would imagine that maybe this will be like a preseason game where they play the first half or something, and then they could pull it at the end. I don't know if I didn't look. I don't know if the Magic are playing for anything, but you probably got a W tonight. I feel like the Wolves will kind of at times look like Indiana last night, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a consequence of clinching a playoff spot. Now, what's interesting is the Wolves haven't really had this luxury yet, right? Like in their past playoff runs. Like, think about it. So last year, it comes down to the last game. It comes down to you have to beat Brooklyn and Utah in a weekend or else you're going to the play-in. And what happened? We beat them both. We had to win. In fact, if you remember, Anthony Edwards got that technical rescinded so he could play in the Utah game. And even though Utah was heavily shorthanded, I mean, bad team on the floor, at least at that time, we almost lost that game if it wasn't for Anthony Edwards. And then the year before that, remember, we were playing for the 3rd seed, or the 1 seed, I guess it was, on the last day when we lost to Phoenix. Like, the 1 seed was up for grabs, so we had to go full force until then. The year before that, if you remember, was the awful 42-40 year, which the funny thing is we actually have a better record from that than we did from the year I was talking about earlier, the Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio year, where we're almost 500, but had to go down to the wire of that, had to beat the Pelicans in the last game of the season to get the 7-8 game, which we lost to the Lakers, and then ended up beating the OKC Thunder. Boy, could we have seen what was coming from the OKC Thunder from that 10 seed? I couldn't. We dominated them in that game, but the trajectory of that team after that was straight up after that. I mean, even before that, the season before that, there's not a season in between. The play-in season where, I mean, we had to fight to the end, and we had a little bit of a cushion where we were locked into 7, but we had to fight our way in for the Clippers in the Clippers series and fight to the tooth and nail. So really, what's interesting is this is the first time the Wolves, at least in this iteration, also if you go back to the Jimmy Butler year, we had that game 82 that we had to fight our way in. That was obviously before the play-in was constructed, which I'm excited to watch the play-in. I know some people aren't, but I actually like watching the play-in. But so basically what I'm saying, we had to fight our way to the very end in all of these seasons, most of these seasons for the playoffs. So give or take. This year, we can kind of step our foot off the gas a little bit. We could just sit back and relax, watch Baron J and Julian Phillips, who I'm excited to watch play, I don't know, a good 20, 25 minutes. Sure. Let Jalen Clark get reps under him. Let, I don't know, who, Enrique Freeman, get him some minutes. Why not? Rocco Zaccardi, get him in there. But we could sit back and kind of know who we're going to play. Now, it's not for sure that we're going to play the Nuggets, but if you saw the Lakers' effort last night against the OKC Thunder, and I know it's the OKC Thunder, but it's probably going to be the Denver Nuggets. But if you give Finch a week and a half to game plan, I wonder what he's going to come up with. I wonder what Anthony Edwards is going to have in the tank for the Denver Nuggets game 1 on the road. And man, I'm so excited to make the playoffs. Again, I remember how happy I was when they made it the Butler year. And even though we got swept we did not get swept. We got beat in 5 by James Harden and the Denver Nuggets, the Houston Rockets. That still felt special. It still felt like something we had been without for years. And because it was something. And I was so excited. Even though we got destroyed, I went to game 4 against Houston, but it was so much fun being there, having a playoff atmosphere in Minnesota. And it was just so much fun. And then going from that, I was in the play-in game, the one against the Clippers. That was amazing. Pat Bev, I know we've said some bad things about Pat Bev on this podcast, but that was a great moment for him and a coming out party for Anthony Edwards as well. So I'm just excited for this team to be in the playoffs. And if you are too, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. Few quick notes. We're going to be having a podcast tomorrow with Chris. I'm going to be releasing that on this YouTube channel and on X as well. I think we'll go live at around 8 tomorrow. So come on back for that. Also, a couple other notes. Julius Randle is going to miss his first game of the year tonight. Now, I know that it says he has hand soreness. They probably made up an injury just so he didn't have to play tonight. He's probably relaxing at Disney World right now. Good for him. But kudos to him. You know, a guy who's had some injury issues in the past. I know we talked to Andrew Dukowitz in the past, and he said that Julius Randle wanted to play a full 82. I'm sure they convinced him out of that. And I know some of you have contentious relationships with Julius Randle, but at the end of the day, availability is the best thing you can give a team, and kudos to him. I know Dante's been really available this year as well. I remember Towns and Wiggy, they were really good early in their careers, playing 82 games a year, and Ant has been early on his availability as well. Of course, not as much this year. Not as many as he needed to get on the all NBA teams, but kudos to Julius Randle. Enjoy the night off. Also, Gobert off tonight as well. Why not? And out as well. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Give them all night off. Let's relax and just enjoy that we made another one. Also, last thing I want to mention is that looking at the playoff schedule now, I know that it's not released yet, obviously, right? Like we don't know when we're going to play, but I did look at if it is the Nuggets. By the way, if it is the Lakers, even without Luka and Austin Reeves and whoever else will be out for them, you could probably expect the late game would be my guess, because I was just looking at last year's schedule. against the Lakers, and basically all our games were late to later. Yeah, the first one was Saturday at 8:30, 10 o'clock versus the Lakers in game 2. Then it was back here 9:30. These are all Eastern time, by the way. So 9:30 for the next game. We did have an afternoon one as well, and 9:30, and then a 3:30 as well when the Wolves clinched it. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, 10 o'clock as well. So I would imagine our games will be later, just considering that they are in Denver. Remember what they did for us on Christmas, where we were up till midnight on Christmas night into December 26th. And it was a fun game, but boy was that a long one, particularly on Christmas nights. But I'm guessing some late games, maybe some primetime games. I'm thinking with how the series are shaping up, particularly in the West, we should be one of the marquee matchups. I think there's always like an NBA TV series where I think the Wolves in Memphis, the year that they met up in the playoffs 4 years ago, which is crazy to think about. I think they were the NBA TV series that one year, and then like last year, it was I think Miami and whoever they were playing. I think the Cavs, like Miami and the Cavs, and it was a blowout. So I would think that the NBA TV series, I guess like the weird times, the afternoons when no one's really watching on NBA TV, I think that will go to probably, I would say, whoever comes out. If the Clippers get the 7 seed and play the Spurs, I think the Suns or whoever beats the Suns in the second play-in game, like the Blazers and Thunder, because the Thunder, let's be honest, let's assume they're going to get past the first round. I mean, they got a really good shot. They're going to get plenty of TV exposure going into the second and third round. So I think they're going to throw that one off to the side. Plus, that series is probably going to be pretty quick. I'll just make some quick predictions here for the play-in, just because why not? For the play-in for the Western Conference, which is pretty much secure. I mean, the Trailblazers and the Clippers do play tonight, but I believe that the Clippers have the Clippers and let's see who plays tonight. Clippers and Thunders tonight, but on Friday the Clippers and Trailblazers play. So it could be some shakeup there. Clippers still hanging on to that 8th seed. But so my predictions for the 7, I think the Kawhi Leonard factor reigns in. I think that particularly if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, then no. But I do think that the Clippers will come out of the Western Conference with the 7th seed, particularly if they stay at 8. I think they can go to Phoenix and win, particularly when we saw last night's the Houston Rockets withstand a 25-0 run and still win the game. I think I gave the Phoenix Suns too much credit. Although I will say this, I'll pick them. Portland Trailblazers to be the 8th seed to go play the Oklahoma City Thunder. I would love to see it. I like the Trailblazers. I like what they're doing. They have some interesting cap stays. Denny Avdia is on an amazing contract. So, yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, I'll go with the Clippers and the Portland Trailblazers. Before last night, I was much higher on the Phoenix Suns, but after last night, not so much anymore. By the way, make sure to check out 612tees.com. It's on the bottom right here. You can get 25% off when you use promo RUN25. They have some awesome shirts. Cole, we've had him on the show before, has some great shirts you can go check out. Check them out, 612tees.com. And let's go into the Eastern Conference, which I think the play-in is a little more interesting. It's a little more bunched up. So I don't think they're going to be in the play-in, but the team, like I said, the East I'm rooting for are the Atlanta Hawks at 6 right now. You have the Toronto Raptors. 7, you got the Sixers, who are good. We saw that. Orlando Magic, who we play tonight. They're probably going to get the win. Let's be honest. Charlotte Hornets at 9 and the Miami Heat at 10. If it stays the way that it does, and now I think let's take a look at the 76ers remaining schedule here. So they have the Rockets tomorrow, Pacers, and the Bucks. Okay, that's probably 2, maybe 3 wins. So my prediction is coming out of the Eastern Conference, I think the Raptors come out as the 7th seed. I do. I think they're good enough to do that. And they play the Boston Celtics. And I think your Charlotte Hornets, Chris Emerson's favorite team, makes the playoffs as the 8th seed. I think they do it. I think they get it done. And I'm not saying that they are going to beat the 1 seed here. Oh, sorry. That's music going on there. There we go. I'm not saying they're going to beat the 1-seeded Pistons, but I think that's going to be a fun, scrappy series. So, yeah, like I said, my picks are Clippers, Trailblazers in the play-in of the West. And then in the Eastern Conference, I got the Raptors, who I think are going to be in the play-in at the 7th seed. And then I think the Charlotte Hornets will get the 8th seed. Well, anyway, guys, we'll be back with a podcast tomorrow. Make sure to check out 612tees.com. Give a follow if you're watching on Twitter or X, I should say. Give a follow to the Twitter page. We really appreciate the support. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And 5 straight playoff appearances. I got 5 on it. Did I? I probably butchered that, didn't I? But I'm excited. We're going to be covering the Wolves all through the playoffs. Get excited. And as always, go Wolves. Have a great night.